Hi, welcome to Talk Beliefs. Neil here. I'm introducing the programme today because Mark's been up to some exciting stuff, so I thought I should ask him about it.
I had a great time in London, in the West End of London. I went to the screening of the film Apostasy. Now, we talked about this last week, of course, and this is the film by ex-Jehovah's Witness Daniel Kokotajlo. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And the film obviously is about Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's about a family, a fictional family, a mother and two daughters, and every possible thing you could think of that Jehovah's Witnesses have to deal with within their faith. He throws into this film. So it has the disfellowshipping, that's when you're thrown out of the church. He has the blood transfusion thing comes into it, just the way the meetings go, the hierarchy. I mean, everything, including, you know, the way you're supposed to behave, the way you're supposed to dress. And it was very, very good, but very, very grim. Very, very grim, because I've learned a lot about Jehovah's Witnesses over the years, but actually seeing it like this was... and knowing it comes from somebody who's been through it. Oh gosh, I would recommend this to anyone who's interested in cults or has been in the Jehovah's Witnesses or knows somebody who is in it, because I'm looking at them differently now.
So after all your discussions and talks you've had with lots of Jehovah's Witnesses, many of these can be found on our YouTube page. Mm-hmm. How accurate do you reckon it would be to a real life experience of a Jehovah's Witness?
Well, considering Daniel, the director, I mean, he grew up in Manchester. He was a Jehovah's Witness. He's left now. I think his family, most of his family, are still in. He tried to make it as accurate as possible. And I met some people afterwards, including Lydia Finch, of course, who we had in the Reason Coffee Shop when she came over to do a presentation, her first ever presentation. It was a brilliant one. And I've interviewed her a couple of times since then. And I said, so what did you think? Was it accurate? She said, oh, very accurate. And the mother in the movie is very grim, very like, we've got to go to meetings, Jehovah first, you know, family second. Because
I'm guessing a lot of the kickback's going to be from the Jehovah's Witness community, is that this is nonsense and it's exaggeration and it's not how it really is.
I wonder, I think, well, I don't know, I've never been in the JWs myself, but I get the impression it was very accurate.
I wonder if it's going to turn some heads and people are going to go, oh. Or will it even get seen by the Jehovah's Witness community?
Apparently they have said that they are aware of it, and that's all that they have said. Whether they actually say, you know, do not watch this film, I don't know. It depends what goes on in different kingdom halls. But yeah, so I'm after the screening, I spoke to Daniel, the director. Of course, there was a lot of people speaking to him on that day, so I couldn't really get an interview, but we talked about one in the future. And Lydia Finch was there, of course. Alexandra Stein, who I've interviewed a couple of times. That was a nice surprise. Lloyd Evans, who runs JW Survey. That's a big exJW YouTube channel. He was there with his family. And I also got to meet for the first time Alex O'Connor, who is the Cosmic Skeptic. And I'm a big fan of his, so I went over to him and, you know, shook his hand. And we talked about, you know, doing YouTube channels and that sort of thing. Compared notes, basically. He's much taller than I expected as well, because you watch on YouTube and you see them looking into the camera lens and you assume they're like the same height as you, but he's a good head taller than me, and I'm 5'9". And I said, you've got like about 199,000 subscribers or something. That's amazing. And he said, actually, let me just, and he takes out his phone, right, and he gets to the page, and he does a refresh. And as we both watch his phone, it goes over to 200,000, and I was there for that.
Well, 200,000 if only.
Yeah. Oh well, you know, I'll get there one day. But it was great to be there with him. And I said, I would love to interview you. So he seemed quite keen on that. So maybe that will happen one day. And he's great. Yeah. So there were probably a lot of other YouTubers there that I just didn't recognize.
I was really pleasantly surprised being in London last week to actually see adverts for this film on the tube. So it's actually quite a big release compared to some of these independent films.
Sometimes they go to these independent films, like in London, this was at the BFI and the Curzon, that's where I was. And I thought, you know, maybe that's it. And then straight to DVD. But yeah, I saw those posters as well, which means it's going to be playing fairly wide.
And hopefully this will raise awareness in just the general population of the cult that is the JWs.
Yes, so it was an eye-opener. Like I said, I thought I had learned everything about them, but just actually seeing it and going along with the characters as though you're part of the family, it's like so grim, and there's like very little emotion. and it's the church and the elders and the meetings come first. Everything, including family, seems to be, inconsequential compared to that.
Yeah,
it's
quite dangerous, and people need to know about it.
Yeah.
So it's great there's a film out. You've been busy this week as well with a couple of interviews you're lining up for the channel. If you want to give a quick preview to what we can expect coming up.
Yes, I did. I did 2 on the same day, actually. One with a lady who was in the Escuela Caribe behavioral modification camp, which is basically one of these places which Christians who are not happy with their normal teens send them away to these places, often in other countries, in this case the Dominican Republic, to straighten them out, make them become nice little Christian kids instead of normal teenagers who happen to be, I don't know, a bit grumpy or whatever, but that's what happens.
And there's going to be a few exposés in that of the way they're treated, I believe.
Yes, I've spoken to a couple of people now who've been down to that one, and this is my 3rd, and she had some pretty horrendous horror stories. And they're trying to raise awareness, and there's a Facebook page, and there's a couple other support pages, and I just want to interview as many of these people as possible who have been sent down to these awful camps, and they come back with PTSD basically.
Yeah, it needs to be done, so well done.
And the other one was with a guy who was recently on the A&E series, Cults and Extreme Beliefs, and that's Teddy Hose. He was in the Unification Church. He grew up in it. That's otherwise known as the Moonies. And he's speaking out against that. He obviously did quite a lot of speaking out on the program, but I gave him a good, 45 minutes to tell the world exactly, what it was like for him and what people should look out for. And that was very interesting.
Very interesting, because we don't really hear as much about the Moonies these days, so it'd be interesting to listen to that one.
Yeah, so those are coming up.
And we were going to jump straight into a story, but something came up this morning that we thought we'd better talk about.
Yes, this is
popping up all over both of our Facebook timelines.
It is. So we're just going to sort of look at this and go through it as we go. Attorney General Jeff Sessions, of course, he's in the part of the Republican Party, the Trump administration. Sessions announces Religious Liberty Task Force.
No, that sounds a bit scary.
We could just end it there, and that would be scary enough. But according to this, Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced Monday that the Department of Justice is creating a Religious Liberty Task Force. Sessions said the task force, co-chaired by Associate Attorney General Jesse Panuccio and the Assistant Attorney General for the Justice Department's Office of Legal Policy, Beth Williams, will help the department fully implement the religious liberty guidance it issued last year. Now, what does this mean exactly?
I don't know, but it sounds like something from Handmaid's Tale. It sounds like someone's read Margaret Atwood's.
Closer, yeah.
And they're using it as a guidebook rather than a piece of fiction.
I think we should listen to Mr. Sessions himself and just see what exactly he is saying here.
Let's be frank. A dangerous movement, undetected by many, but real, is now challenging and eroding a great tradition of religious freedom. There can be no doubt. It's no little matter. It must be confronted intellectually and politically and defeated. This past election, and much that has flowed from it, gives us a rare opportunity to arrest these trends and to confront them. We've gotten to the point where courts have held that morality cannot be a basis for law, where ministers are fearful to affirm, as they understand it, Holy Writ from the pulpit, and where one group can actively target religious groups by labeling them hate groups. There can be no doubt that we are stronger as a nation because of the contribution of religious people. Every day across America, they feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, educate our young people, care for the sick. They do so not because the government tells them to, but because they want to. They do these things because of their faith. I can assure you that people in Washington have no idea the extent to which our religious community is with the American people in times of birth, death, marriage, divorce, and those kind of situations that are so impactful to human beings. And I believe we need to respect that and affirm it wherever possible.
I mean, that may sound innocent enough, But what he's really talking about is a task force, and that a task force is normally some sort of policing operation of some description, to allow religious people to discriminate against other people.
So if you had another gay cake sort of scenario, this time they could press their task force button, and these troopers a la ICE could come in and say, hey, they don't want to bake that cake for you. You can't complain, get out, or we'll throw you in jail.
This is what it sounds like, and it's terrifying, to tell the truth, if we start going down this route. I mean, this really does show up what happens if you let a religion take over a government, because Trump is the distraction. Behind this, it's religious and corporation liberties, basically. That's what they want. And all those years where everyone's been telling me that religion's harmless, and I'm not picking on any individual people. I think that the idea of religions being harmless, they are to an extent until they get in power. Because we're going down a very dark route here. People forget that Christianity wasn't spread by the brilliantness of its ideas or thoughts. It was spread by violence,
and the
torture,
Crusades,
and
the
Inquisition.
Inquisition.
That's how it was spread. And this is literally the first steps to an Inquisition. It's more or less the first steps.
They're trying to get in as much of a theocracy as they can while they are in.
Yeah.
And I suppose the midterms coming up is frightening them a little bit, but they seem to think that if we get this sort of like cemented into American society, it will stick.
Well, this is the thing. If you do it, get enough through quick enough and you hold it, it makes it very hard to unpick. This is the problem. I see a few issues with this religious liberty task force. What happens when an atheist decides not to serve a Christian? Maybe. I don't think many atheists would, but I think for a protest they might, to test it out.
Yes, because there's a religious task force, but there won't be a non-believer secular task force, will there?
No, because they won't be. He's saying this is all based around the Constitution. The Constitution gives everyone equal rights.
Yes.
All religions, and those of none.
Yeah. Yes.
But they just want to impose the bit that's Christianity. So this is going to...
It'd be interesting if an American Muslim tries to cite this.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Will they come rushing to the Muslims' aid?
Yeah. But it's all about discriminating, and a lot of it is about discriminating against gays or transgender, women who want abortions. It's all about discriminating against people who don't think like you do.
They've always been terrified about the progress that their country, the world has been making, and so they're trying to just turn it over.
I mean, how far do we go down this route before we finally admit that America isn't the land of the free?
Oh, it certainly isn't.
No, because...
No, that's why I never went back.
Yeah, so we're going to have to follow this story carefully.
Yeah.
Because that's very, very scary in my eyes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to have to... So, didn't get a chance to go into it for that very much, but we're going to follow this one. So, on to the story we were going to talk about, Mark.
And we found this on pathos.com. The studio behind God's Not Dead wants the film rights to the Thai cave rescue. And I was following this story so closely because I've got this fear of caves and and I was like, oh God, I've got to get we've got to get these kids out. And of course, eventually these 12 kids and their coach were found safe and sound and a bit thin, and they're all absolutely fine now. But not only were the parents on the scene, were the rescue team on the scene, but also, it seems, there was the staff of Pure Flix, which is a Christian film company who was behind the God's Not Dead series. And Michael Scott, the managing partner of Pure Flix, said that, "I see this as a major Hollywood film with A-list stars." Scott and co-producer Adam Smith have been conducting preliminary interviews around the Tham Luang cave site, where after a grueling 2 weeks, all the 12 boys and coach have been freed from the cave. Now that's all fine and well, but as we now know, after they were rescued, it was discovered that they stayed alive and stayed calm largely through Buddhist techniques, which I think their coach is a Buddhist. And most of the boys, I think, bar one, grew up in Buddhist families. They practiced breathing techniques and they stayed absolutely fine. And when they were found, they just looked a bit bored.
And since they've all started a Buddhist training course, all the boys, I don't know how serious that is or whether they'll become monks, but they've all started. So
Yeah, 11 of them have been ordained as Buddhist novices. I think this is just, it's not a permanent thing. It's just to give thanks, really. And they're going to live in a Buddhist temple for 9 days, which is the same length of time that they were trapped in the cave.
So you've got a right-wing Christian group basically trying to hijack this.
Yeah, I want to know why they think this would be a good Christian story. They say it's going to center around the two British divers who discovered the buoys, and we don't know anything about their religious beliefs.
No, we don't, but we know they used a lot of breathing equipment that science made and had nothing to do with...
Yes, it was all human beings, gathering together, and it was a great coming together of people from different backgrounds, using their technology, using their ingenuity to get them out. They were trapped, was it 6 miles in this cave?
Well, it was a long way in.
Long way in, and it was flooded, and they had no idea how to get them out, and rain was coming, and it's like, how on earth do we get them out? And of course, all the Christians all over the world were praying for them, fair enough. But since the boys have been rescued, they've been saying, thank God, isn't God wonderful?
Yeah.
Well, why did he let them in there in the first place?
Yeah, exactly. Why did he put them through it in the first place? Yeah, I mean, it's a great story of, as you said, human ingenuity to get them out. I mean, the fact that we managed to find them in the first place was amazing, and they were still alive.
I hate to say it, even on some of the news stations I watch, they would show the boys alive just after they were found alive. And they look in the camera and they say, the power of prayer, huh?
Yeah.
No.
Because that did a lot, didn't it?
The power of human beings working their backsides off.
And their ingenuity, yeah, absolutely. And problem-solving abilities. And
if prayer worked, and A, they wouldn't be in there in the first place. Or B, perhaps they would, materialize outside the cave. Then I'd believe in it.
If prayer worked, we wouldn't have needed to have the rescue mission.
Yes, exactly.
Goodness sake.
Yeah.
But it's not right that a Christian organisation is trying to hijack this whatsoever. I mean, if you're going to make it about a film, it should be about a film about the way Buddhist meditation techniques let these boys survive so long and keep calm in
and I'm sure they
situations.
do. It does work, but I'm sure that really a psychologist or a physicist or something could tell you how it works. It's nothing spiritual about it.
No, it's just keeping your body calm and your mind calm. I mean, anyone can learn to meditate.
Yes, and instead of thinking about, oh my God, how am I going to get out? You just concentrate on your breathing or just on one particular thing, on a sound or something like that.
Yeah. So that's the story behind it, is how amazing it was that they got out. And actually, the guy who was leading them, he was the weakest of the group because he refused to take food. So the boys could eat. So that's a bit of a story in itself. So he's the hero, really. Yeah,
I think they're probably all, this Christian group, Fearflix, they're probably finding out now that, we can't really make a Christian film out of this unless we, fudge the facts a little bit and turn the British divers into Christian. One of the boys is a Christian, though. So they might, I don't know.
They could twist it. I'm sure it will be a film at some stage.
I think it will.
They normally make a lot of films, so I just hope it isn't made by these people.
Oh, absolutely. So what do we take away from this, do you think, Neil?
Well, one, celebrate the fact these guys got out. But two, it shows the ingenuity of human beings. It absolutely does. And in the week that the world's been burning with record temperatures all across the northern
California,
hemisphere. Greece, Sweden, all over the place. California's even asking Australia to help them out because they're so bad they can't cope. A country the size of America can't cope. And this is all exacerbated by climate change. So for me, my takeaway is maybe the ingenuity of human beings can help us solve climate change.
Human beings, we can get ourselves into deep shit, but at the same time, if we really put our minds to it, human beings are amazing, and we can get out of the deep shit as well and learn a lot along the way.
Yeah, that's my take. That's my take from it. So, yeah, let's have a positive at the end of this one.
And we won't blame it on atheists like that Greek bishop.
Yes. We didn't have time to talk about that, but what a horrible human being.
Oh, God. Okay, then. Well, Neil, see you next week.